over the next 5 days, we're going to spend some time looking at the characters that are a main part in the nativity story. Sometimes those who are well known, and other times those who aren't so well known. Today we're going to start looking at the innkeeper. The innkeeper is often someone who is portrayed as a grumpy old man. In children's nativity stories, it's often someone that says, "Go away, I don't want you to be part of this life, part of this night." But if you actually look at why the innkeeper could be grumpy, you kind of think he might have a reason to be. Being an innkeeper can't have been an easy life. There would have been busy times and less so busy times. Times when there were lots of people wanting to stay, and times when maybe there was no one staying at all. And then suddenly along comes a census that says that everyone must return to their ancestral home. And so Joseph, taking his now wife Mary, travels back to where his ancestors are from, the town of Bethlehem in Judah. His ancestors are King David. They get to Bethlehem, and by this point Mary is very heavily pregnant, and she's thinking it must be time for me to give birth to my baby boy. They go from inn to inn, knocking on doors, asking if there are any rooms available, but there are none. No one has any space. And finally they end up at the inn of the innkeeper from our story. They knock on the door. He comes down and says, "I'm sorry, we've got no room. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do." But Joseph pleads and says, "Look, my wife is about to give birth. You must have somewhere that we can stay." "All right," he says, "there's a stable round the back. You're free to use that." Off they go to the stable, and lo and behold, Mary gives birth to her baby boy. Now the innkeeper was just doing his job. He had no idea that he was part of the story that we passed down through the generations, so that 2,000 years later we'd be reading the same story and thinking about what sort of character he would have been. He was just someone who was doing his job, and it turned out he was part of something major. I love it when Olympians go back to their old primary or secondary schools and they see the PE teacher that first encouraged them to get involved in the sport, and they say thank you. That PE teacher had no idea the impact they could have just by encouraging somebody or telling somebody well done for what they'd been doing, and yet that person had grown up to be an Olympic athlete. So today, whatever you might be doing in your life, whether you be in lessons, in the playground, whether you be in the canteen queue, just remember that by doing something very simple, by doing something very easy, you can have a dramatic impact on somebody's life.